In the battle of free move relays and live broadcast shows, round one seems to have gone to the websites, but has Aegon had their final say? Find out who the NFL's smartest man has winning the World Chess Championship in New York. And on the topic of Carlsen Karjakin in this World Championship-centric ChessCenter edition, we cover everything about the World Chess Championship, both past and present. With the eyes of the entire world on the Game of Kings in New York, the eyes of every ChessCenter viewer are on my awkward facial hair. Let's dive in. Peter Docker's back in Amsterdam to tell us about the big news stories hitting the chess world this week. Peter?
Hey Danny, yeah, well, for starters, Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana are going to participate in the new Pro Chess League. The league that was formerly known as the US Chess League is going to start in 2017 with a rapid play format. And now we know that it's not only going to be international, but also very strong. Magnus Carlsen will be part of the Norway Gnomes team with, for example, Jon Ludvig Hammer and Arjan Tari. And Caruana, he's going to play for the Montreal Chess Bros with, of course, Eric Hansen and Robin van Kampen, among others. So, yeah, that's very exciting news. Very strong league this will be in its first season. And, well, more details can be found in Mike Klein's report.
Absolutely. Now, the other big report to come out, I'll just say two words, Aegon Chess24. What can you tell us about the situation there?
Yeah, that's a big story involving the relay of chess moves, a live relay during tournaments. Aegon tried to prevent this for other sides from doing this during the Moscow candidates. And, well, a couple of sites relayed those moves anyway. Aegon sued Chess24, ChessBomb, and ChessGames.com. And now, last week, the first court case, there has been a ruling. And in fact, the court in Moscow rejected Aegon's claims. So at the moment, Chess24 and others are completely free of relaying moves, as it has always been. But Aegon is going to appeal to this court decision. So we have to wait and see what the situation will be. Future will tell what's going to happen here.
And we encourage everyone to check out the details because, as you said, it is complicated. But sticking with Aegon, they are currently hosting the biggest chess event in the world. That is the World Championship in New York. You will be on site along with Mike and Robert Hess. Tell us what you expect to go down there.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be a very exciting event, World Championship. I must say, Aegon has announced some very interesting things as well. Not only their virtual reality plans, a lot of cameras, but they also have two amazing commentators. Judith Polgar will be there in the studio every day, and they also have Kaja Marie Snare, who we will see elsewhere in ChessCenter. And yeah, we are going to be there. Me, Robert, Mike. And we are going to provide, of course, daily news reports with all the inside information, photos, video interviews. And then, of course, and you will be able to tell us more about that, is we're going to do daily chess centers.
Absolutely. Right after the game is over, we will be bringing the highlights, the lowlights, and having experts join the show to tell us what they think went down. Our special World Chess Championship in Review episode of ChessCenter continues now with a nice little best and worst countdown. We start things at number 5, where in 2006, KRAMNIK and TOPALOV brought the chess world back together. The broken marriage between the Professional Chess Association, PCA, and FIDE was finally reunited under one roof, and we remain one big happy World Chess Championship family.
Number 4, FISCHER finally played his third game against SPASSKY. This was after he had given the organizers a list of unreasonable demands. It seemed like the match was going to be derailed, but he went on to play one of the most celebrated matches of all time and became the first American world chess champion.
Speaking of first, Vishy Anand became the first world champion of non-Soviet or non-American descent, if you include FISCHER, in many, many years, and truly set the tone for what is now a globally recognized game. And maybe he even gets a little bit of credit for the fact that his successor is also of non-Soviet descent, that being Magnus Carlsen.
In 1886,
Steinitz became the first officially acknowledged world chess champion. And this was after there had been a mess of trying to decide who was the best chess player in the world. There had been no official recognition to anyone prior to Steinitz.
Certainly, he was the godfather, but was he the greatest? I don't know. A lot of people still think that Garry Kasparov, because of his legendary reputation, including the fact that he overcame a 5-0 deficit in one match versus Anatoly Karpov to eventually come back, tie it at 48 games. That match never finished, but it really did set the tone for Garry Kasparov as being maybe the most legendary world chess champion ever, and for that he takes our top spot.
We already know that world champion Magnus Carlsen is the most accurate player in chess history. What we don't know is how good Sergei Karjakin is. Well, as we see in the images below, Magnus Carlsen is much more accurate than Karjakin, but unlike Hikaru Nakamura, who plays worse against Magnus Carlsen, in their head-to-head matchups, Sergei Karjakin plays significantly better than average. His cap score is much higher, so we can anticipate a much more closely fought battle.
That's interesting that you point out the difference in terms of how those two players face the world champion. In fact, you're right. Karjakin only making a total of 10 inaccuracies and 3 blunders in 19 games. Of course, that's compared to only 7 inaccuracies and 1 blunder by the world champion, but still very, very accurate chess being played by these two when they meet up. And speaking of meetups, it's time for us to take a look, of course, at the games we prepared. We can't talk about cap statistics without showing a little bit of the meat that goes into the system. This was one game review. Carlsen won a big one against Karjakin in Bilbao this year, and he started that attack with the move g4. I had a video about this game on Chess.com. I loved the rook swing. I love how the pawns got jiggy with it. I love how the attack was just unstoppable. A truly dominant performance by Carlsen to beat Karjakin in this game, and the Russian just resigned after rook takes g4. But tell everybody why you chose this win by Sergei Karjakin as black from Tata Steel a few years ago as his best win against the world champion.
Well, the 2012 win by Sergei Karjakin is only one over Magnus Carlsen. But if you like passed pawns, here's one for you. This pawn on d5 is an IQP, an isolated queen pawn, but quickly it's pushed, pawn to d4. After knight e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4. It looks like the rook on a8 is hanging, but the tactical wizardry of Sergei Karjakin allows him to play pawn to d3, threatening pawn d2, forking the rooks. And after a few more moves, we see here that after the queen came to d4 with check, the d-pawn is passed, and black went on to win a smooth game.
Yes, we did take the time to review some of the crazier things to happen to the World Chess Championship in its history, and we're going to let Alexandra start things off at number 5.
During the terrible times of World War I, we also didn't have a World Chess Championship match. Lasker wasn't able to defend his title for 11 years, and Rubinstein never even got a match.
Number 4, one word. TOILETGATE. For the first time, the World Championship was riddled in scandals of cheating accusations, weird ideas of what the players might be doing away from the board, and for the first time, the mental image of what KRAMNIK or TOPALOV might actually look like on the toilet.
Let's move away from that. Number 3 was FIDE President Campomones, who stopped the World Championship match against Kasparov and Karpov after 48 games, leading Kasparov to start the Professional Chess Association, which then started even more controversy because it was not clear whether FIDE or the PCA should be hosting the World Chess Championships.
It certainly was years of dysfunction, but speaking of a butterfly effect, when KRAMNIK used the Berlin defense to defeat Kasparov and get the title in the year 2000, he set in motion 15 years of the world's most boring opening ever being used by top grandmasters. So you may have won the title, Vlad, but shame on you.
And number 1 has to go to when Fischer did not show up to the World Championship match against Karpov in 1975. Fischer then went on to disappear not only from the chess world, but the real world, and didn't resurface until 1992 with his game against Spassky for the World Championship.
Well said, although it did actually lead to that awesome movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, starring Ben Kingsley, which is kind of why yours truly plays chess. So maybe it all works out in the end. Either way, fans, leave your comments and let us know if we missed anything in the end as far as the best and worst moments that you consider from the history of the World Chess Championship. Perhaps it's appropriate that during our rugged facial hair exposure of No Shave November, we're going to be looking at some rugged chess moves from the history of the World Chess Championship. Robert, my pick came from the epic game between Karpov and Kasparov, still known as maybe one of the most brilliant endgames of all time. In this position, I started off with Karpov playing b4, a move that puts the pawns on dark squares and kind of highlights that this bishop is feeling a little empty. But tell everybody why I chose this game after g takes h4 and the move that Karpov played here to shock the world.
Well, Danny, the recapture g takes h4 seems natural, But instead, Karpov played the brilliant knight g2, sacrificing a pawn, but making sure that the bishop on b1 has no threats. It's shooting at air, and the king will infiltrate, and with the knight versus the bad bishop, it's all Karpov in this endgame.
Yeah, it's amazing how often you get to just sacrifice a pawn in an otherwise equal ending, but this really highlights the power of controlling a certain color square against the bishop, making it feel empty, and just watch the king and knight as they worked up the board and just completely outplayed Kasparov. Karpov went on to win this game, and as we said, this is still known as one of the most brilliant endgames in World Championship history. He is the NFL's smartest man. He's one of very few to ever win a vote chess game versus the world on Chess.com. But he's never been on ChessCenter, so at least we're giving Mr. John Urschel that first. And John, the first question I have to ask you as we bring up this commercial you did that premiered on Sunday Night Football, what was your reaction when NFL Films called you and said, hey, we want to do a chess commercial with you?
Well, they asked me if I wanted to do a simul versus 100 people, and the first thing I asked them was, you realize how long that's going to take? And secondly, you know I'm not a grandmaster, right?
And they said, yeah, no, what's a grandmaster?
Exactly. And then they said, well, how about we do 75?
And you said, yeah, sure. No, that makes all the difference in the world for me. Let's just do 75. And I think one of the questions we have to follow up on, since you do so much for kids and encouraging them to follow their dreams in the classroom and on the field, you also write the Math Puzzle of the Week every Wednesday morning for the NFL Players Tribune. Another good shout out to give. I just have to say, if you're now promoting chess to kids, what do you feel chess does in similar fashion to what math does in terms of helping develop kids' critical thinking skills?
Well, like you said, I think chess really does help build critical thinking skills for kids, as well as focus, concentration, and calculation ability. And I think these are skills that benefit people through the rest of their lives, and it's important to hit these things early. Chess isn't necessarily a replacement for math, but I think it's a great supplement.
Makes sense, and we appreciate having you. But before I let you go, I gotta let the fans in on a secret that you were one of very few people in the world to receive a personal invitation by Aegon to the opening ceremony at the World Championship. So whether you take a +1 or not, we have to ask you on air, who do you got in the World Championship?
Well, Carlsen's got all the championship experience, and he's the stronger player, so he's the easy choice.
All right, well, straightforward answer there from the NFL lineman, and we thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're looking at a position where William Steinitz is black in this position. Again, you didn't count wrong, everybody. He's down a piece against Mikhail Chigorin. Just about any move here is winning for white other than the one that was played. Tell everybody the move that was played here that led to instant resignation and a forced mate.
Well, Danny, as you said, black is down a piece and should just resign, but instead white plays the horrific blunder bishop to b4. Yes, it attacks the rook on d2, but no, it does not protect the pawn on h2 anymore. So white has to resign after rook takes h2 check, because after king g1, rook d to g2 is checkmate.
Yeah, we got to show that in instant replay for the people. Again, you're up a piece, the World Championship is on the line, you're stopping all the threats, and you blunder into mate in 1. It never gets worse than that, and that's why it takes our top moment as the worst moves from World Championship history.
We're back here again with Kaja Marie Snare, chess reporter from Norway, but you are going to be in New York and you will be actually working for the official organizers and Aegon. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's I'm so excited. I'm going to be a reporter on site in New York City for the official broadcaster. It's going to do an international broadcast. We're going to go to Russia, to the US, to Germany, China, France, everywhere. Try to get people all over the world to experience chess the way Norwegians have been used to now for a few years with Magnus playing. So we're going to try to bring that same TV experience to the rest of the world, and I hope a lot of people will follow.
Oh, that sounds really exciting, yeah, because, well, Norway must be getting ready, must be really excited that another World Championship is starting for their man Magnus Carlsen. How are things in Norway? Is it already, shaping up there?
You know, I can sense that people are getting ready, that people are getting excited, and this match is so special as well. we finally have a new opponent for Magnus. It's not going to be Vishy. Now we have Karjakin, and I guess the chess world really has been waiting for this match. Now we finally get to see them together in World Championship. Obviously, Russia is back. Russia is gonna try to win back the title, and it's gonna be in New York City, where Bobby Fischer grew up. There's so many aspects about this game, and I just hope it's gonna be an exciting one as well.
Are you ready for time trouble?
It's hammer time.
A big question on everyone's mind has got to be whether FIDE President Kirsan Ilyumzhinov, who of course normally always visits the World Championship, will risk it and come to the U.S. What do you think?
Well, if he does, he'll be taking a massive gamble. If Fischer taught us anything, it's that the U.S. Treasury Department does not let go of a grudge lightly. Next up, prediction time. What's got a better chance of happening, Danny? Magnus winning in 9 games or fewer, or Magnus losing the match overall?
If I'm choosing between those two, I'd say it's probably more likely he'd lose overall. I do not expect the Russian to go down quickly. Sergey is going to show up with some rock-solid preparation. Back to the topic of who may show up on site. Rumors flew around last week that Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates might come. But when all is said and done, who do you think will be the biggest name celebrity to have graced their presence on site?
Well, unfortunately, my sources at Aegon pretty much shot down that story. My best 2 guesses would be Howard Stern, that good chess player in New York City, or Michael Bloomberg, former mayor. He loves it there. Next up, Kaja Snare of Norway and Judith Polgar, best female player of all time, were announced as 2 of the commentators. What does that say about the current state of chess when they were selected?
I think they're putting more thought into who they want to be the official host. I think those are 2 very marketable faces with good camera presence, and I expect Kaja and Judith to totally rock it. Speaking of coverage, will St. Louis get much? They scheduled a big event to compete right alongside the World Championship. What do you think their intentions were behind this?
I don't think they were malicious in any way. Sometimes it's really hard getting on 4 players' schedules in such a busy field of events. However, I do worry about how many viewers they'll get because a lot of their rounds line up with World Championship rounds. Finally, virtual reality makes its first appearance. Will this be a turning point in how we view chess?
I don't imagine many viewers really care about seeing things from on-site, so I'm going to say no just because I haven't seen it work yet, but fans will tell us whether or not it's a hit. Speaking of on-site, you will be there along with Peter Dockers and Grandmaster Robert Hess bringing us daily coverage. Good luck, and we look forward to it. As Grandmaster Robert Hess and I roll in note, Grandmaster Robert Hess and a, damn, it's like a blooper by itself. I couldn't get it right. All right, here we go. I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is, will the leader of the chess world, that being Kirsan Ilyumzhinov, risk it? Risking a.
You were going to risk it for the biscuit on
I was, and then I was like, Kirsan doesn't risk anything for any biscuits.